Welcome, everybody, to the Black Belt Barber podcast, the first and only podcast about entrepreneurship for barbers and beauty professionals. I'm Tico Invictus. I'm your host. Please follow me at Tico Invictus on Instagram. And I have a special guest who's going to share his story. He's amazing. He's been, I got to know him in one of my classes, right?
Correct, yeah.
I have Javi. He's an entrepreneur. He's a barbershop owner. And we are here all ears to listen and learn from your experience, my friend. Can you share your story, who you are?
Definitely, of course. It's an honor to be here, number one. I appreciate you guys inviting me over here, and, I'm honored by the invitation. And so, yeah, I'll give you a little bit of the background of where I started cutting hair and how I got into being an owner of a barbershop and how that all came about. First, I always like to start with that I am dyslexic. I can't read and I can't
So that
write.
makes us too.
Figured. I think that's a qualification for barbers.
I noticed that.
Yeah, so
You start with the story. Where you coming from? Your background as originally?
yeah,
you know?
I'll get to that. But
get
I
to
always
that,
like
okay.
I always like saying that in the beginning only because same thing, like it's part of the inspiration, for other guys, kids, people trying to get into this industry or anything, that it is possible. Even though you have some type of obstacle, it could be that one or many others, that you could push forward and that you could achieve stuff, even if you have something, some obstacle in your way, especially one like me and you have, which is, it's tough for us to read, and you have contracts, and, sometimes I get nervous just going to the doctor because I had to fill in papers and read papers. So, but I'll get into my story. So, yeah, I was born here in Miami. Parents are Cuban. My whole family came from Cuba. They're immigrants from Cuba. And, I was born here to a good family, hardworking parents. My dad's a carpenter by trade, and my mom works in the banking industry. And no, just, pretty normal upbringing here, actually from Miami. And, went to school, tried to do my best to graduate with my learning disabilities, like I just mentioned. And I always inspired to be something in fashion. First of all, I was always into sports. I played baseball and all that stuff as I was a kid. And I always, loved, my dream was to become a baseball player. It's any Cuban, the parents, if any Cuban, Latin people know, just like probably in Brazil, is like probably to become a fighter,
Or a soccer player.
A soccer player, yes. Number one soccer player. Right?
I worked at a barbershop that called Las Grandes Ligas in Boston, all about baseball.
Baseball, right.
It's a huge thing on DR, right?
Yes, DR as well, correct.
Okay.
So the Cuban thing, why they're probably not as popular, they are very popular for it, but the thing is the communism. The professional players have more of a struggle to get to the leagues in the United States because Cuba doesn't let them out to come over. In DR, they allow the players to leave and become professional. In Cuba, they don't. So that's why it's a little tougher to become a professional baseball player if you're coming out of Cuba versus when you're coming. So I guess Cuba has lost a little bit of recognition in the baseball world because it's tougher to get to the major leagues unless you flee the country and do a lot more stuff. So it's a background on that. But so yeah, I always wanted to be a ball player, and my parents always had me play baseball, but life kept on. I was always very artistic. I always had an inclination to draw, and I loved drawing and doing all that type of artistic stuff. And I started getting a kind of like an inclination for fashion design for some reason, and I started doodling with clothes and started getting into that at a young age. And I was just drawing, and I would draw all these characters and do all these fun clothes on them, like hip hop characters with their clothes. And so I was always very artistic, and since, like I explained, that I wasn't really good in school, but I was always a good kid. I never really misbehaved in class or anything like that. So my teachers liked me because they understood, like, I'm just not a bad kid. He's just having trouble learning. And so I would get really frustrated, obviously. So a lot of times the teachers would put me to do, like these posters for like special events, or like, because they knew I could draw, so they just put me out there to do like these cool, projects. It was all like these big projects for drawing for school and stuff. So I'd always have a lot of fun doing that.
You are married?
I am married. I'm married. I've been married. This is very inspirational, probably as well. I've been married for just celebrated my anniversary, 22 years.
Wow, when was that?
My anniversary?
Uh-huh.
3-4 days ago.
Wow.
My anniversary, yeah.
You have kids, right?
Yeah, I have 2 kids. I have a 4-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter as well.
You have beautiful
young.
kids, by the way.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh my God, you have beautiful kids.
So you guys know
They could be
I knew
models.
all that, but I need to ask. So I'm the host.
How did you find out that you had a learning disability? Was in your early stage when you're like in the middle school or when?
Yeah, actually elementary school. I remember in 5th grade. Again, they probably knew something, but I didn't have the earliest memory that I have of me struggling in school was 5th grade. Before that, I don't remember. I can't think back like, I remember this day in 4th grade where I struggled. No, in 5th grade is when it started really like shining. And they started. I guess the school system back then wasn't prepared for that type of, stuff yet as they are now. So they started kind of separating the class and putting some of the kids that were, were struggling with reading or any learning disability. They would put us like in a book room or whatever and just had a special teacher try to, dedicate a little more time to a smaller group to teaching us at a slower pace or whatever. And that's when I started realizing, there's something going on here because they're not keeping me in the regular class with the regular kids,
Did you get bullied a lot?
From teachers?
Or from your
friends?
No,
classmates?
I didn't really experience too much bullying, but thankfully, like, I've always, I'm not going to say tough, like in the word tough, I've never been a guy that's just like been pushed around easily or any of that, So throughout my whole life, even though I've had that, I was raised by like my dad, and my dad was always, don't let no one pick on you, don't let no one bully you, don't hit no one unless they hate you. So I was always had very good principles as I grew up. So I never bullied, and I never let no one bully me, So I was always very respect both ways, I always expected respect towards me, and I wasn't scared to fight. I was never scared to fight, as you guys know. I'm into fighting, and I like training in fighting. So
Chico also has
I had-
ADHD, right?
yeah, I
baby?
had
And that's
ADHD.
dyslexia.
Yeah, also dyslexia. I've been through my whole life, like with this learning disability, was very tough for me. I couldn't learn like the other kids. My whole life, I struggled, frustrated. How do you say bomba quando você toma bomba? In English.
He failed in school. He repeated the
The
year.
3rd grade. I repeat the year on the 3rd grade, and all my good friends, the friends that are closer to me, they was 1 year ahead. So I always had this sense of I was like a dunk. Is that dunk? I was like feeling like a dunk. I couldn't learn like the other kids.
I get it.
And you're
I got bullied.
Yeah.
I got bullied from my family, from friends, even from few teachers. But one of them, she would give me names like dunk or you stupid. You never.
Yeah.
But like you said, back then they didn't have this. They didn't have this information that it could be a disability. So I had a tough time back then. But when I noticed was when your mom was here, right?
Yeah, that's why I asked you when you found out that you had a learning, let's say, disability.
Right.
I say it's not a disability. You just have, I say, having ADHD or any learning
It
disability.
gives us more ability than anybody else.
Yeah.
Of course.
So
No,
you
I'm
were
convinced.
artistic.
Yeah.
I'm not artistic. I learn normal, but I'm not artistic at all.
She says she can do what we do.
Right.
So I think you
What I-
actually have an advantage on that side.
Of course. I agree.
And Tico got diagnosed when he was, what,
29.
30 or
Yeah,
something?
First year your mom came.
You were 29 then.
Yeah, 29.
Yeah, so exactly. So I got diagnosed when I was in 5th grade. So people knew what was going on, so I didn't get bullied. So it wasn't like, oh, this guy's dumb. They had an understanding of what was going on. So they were more sensitive to the situation versus you. People just thought, what's wrong with this guy? He can't read, or whatever it is. And for me, it was different because they knew, so they were sensitive to. They tried to help. I went to many tutoring and, and
You had
my
support.
parents drove me over here actually to Deerfield to a special center, which they worked with your vision and how your vision connected with your
With the
brain. And it was, I would just leave there crying because it was so frustrating. But as a kid, you're like, I don't understand. Like you said, why am I different? So.
And I noticed, I've been teaching, right? You know that I've been teaching barbers around the United States and here in Coconut Creek at Invictus Barber Academy. I noticed from 10 barbers, 8 have dyslexia or some type of ADHD. I think, why is that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've learned throughout that I think is the right brain, left brain thing, and I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but I know we are the side that's more artistic, so we lack, I guess, on the side that we're, that has to do with the reading and all of that. So I think it's right brain did. This is what they call it, but when you're more artistic.
What do you feel? What are the symptoms? Let's see if it's the same as mine.
Well, I mean, definitely I invert letters and numbers.
And symbols.
In symbols, exactly. So sometimes I'll be writing the word dad and I'll write bad, So like stuff like that, and then when I'm reading, sometimes I invert the letters, so I'm reading words that are not on the page.
Sometimes you're trying to say something that you wanted to say something, but when you speak out,
right.
It sounds different.
You say different words
different
than
words.
you meant.
Did it happen with
Right,
you too?
Right, yeah, of
It's the
course.
same. I had a big issue like reading. Now it's 100 times better because I trained my brain to read.
Yeah.
So I'm reading faster. I can observe more. Absorb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absorb more from the content, but it doesn't affect our in general our intelligence.
Correct.
So we all are artistic.
You just need a different
Method.
method to read and write. It's not the traditional method because each person is different.
Yes.
And now finally, recently, schools are understanding that. Not everybody learns the same way. Some prefer are visual, some listen, whatever. There's different ways you can teach
course, yeah.
kids. But by the time Tico was a kid in a small city, they have this system. Either you do that way or you fail. And he failed.
And there's many barbers that are listening to us right now and watching us. They feel like very frustrated with the same thing we are. What do you have to say to them? Let's say.
Well, I mean, I mean that's good you brought it. And I also wanted to bring up, I failed 5th grade as well. They helped me back, so I had all the same feelings as you did, where all my friends moved into high school. They left the school altogether, and I stayed in 5th grade, and I was like, all these, and you're in 5th grade, like all the little kids are coming into your class, and you're like, oh no, But they're some of my best friends today, so, and before I get into what you asked me, I'm also, a big believer in God today, so, like, more important than everything, I mean, God has a purpose for our lives, and even with this disability, this is nothing. This is exactly what we're, I feel like today I understand that it's perfect for me,
Yes.
God has me right where I need to be, with my disabilities and all. It's like we're gonna be inspirations. This is what we're doing
Exactly what I was gonna say. With our experience, what we lived, now we can teach and help other people with the same problem, with the same situation.
today. Definitely. And you had asked. So what was the question? I'm sorry.
The question is, there's a lot of barbers that are watching us right now, and they going through the same. How do I say?
They could have the same struggles.
The same struggles.
Yes.
What do you
Yeah,
would say?
and I'm gonna kind of put the question, especially for the younger barbers, the young kids that are, potentially coming out of high schools or going into these barber programs throughout the world, and they're going to barber schools because they might be struggling in school, and they're they can't go make it to a college, because that's what happened to me. I went to college and did all the art classes, and I was getting A's across the board in art, and when they told me, okay, it's time to go take science, reading, and math, I was like, I had to, obviously, and that's when they were like, look, sorry, I think you're not cut out for school, So if you're facing a situation like that, and I think both of us, it's just keep pushing forward, Definitely, like you just said, like start reading, That was a big thing I wish someone would have really pushed down my throat. And my parents did their best to try to force me to read. And now that I'm older, I understand the importance of it, and reading maybe stuff that you're interested in, finding something that really interests you and start reading that, because that's the easiest for me to read. If I can stay interested, I can read it.
You can
know?
focus.
Yeah, I
also.
can focus on it because I like it. Like, for example, I like boxing, I like MMA. So if you give me an article about that, I'm more likely to read it than if you give me an article about, baking cakes.
Science, yeah.
Because I'm not going to get into baking cakes. I'm not into it, Or I love cutting hair. So if you give me something that has to do with cutting hair, I'm more likely to read the book, Even though I struggle reading it, but I'm going to make it happen because I'm interested in learning about it. So those are some of the advice, just read and, and definitely keep pushing forward. And definitely another big one is, again, we all have a destiny, and just stay on the right side of things and keep doing what is in front of you, because life will find a way to put you in the right path,
I believe like the same thing you said about like we all have a talent inside us, either if it's for marketing, barbering, or anything. I think God has a purpose for each one of us. Yeah. We just need to find our purpose and use the right tools to enhance that.
Correct.
So how did you start being a barber?
Oh, that's a fun story. So
let's do it.
Yeah, that's a fun story. I'm sure like a lot of barbers out there that are like me and you with just a lot of years of experience. I started cutting hair. So back then my mom would, we were getting like just one number 2 all around, or, just very simple. So my mom would just get the machine, say, I'm not going to pay for that. Like, you're crazy. Like, get over here. Cuban mom, she's like, I'm not going to go pay $10 or whatever, $9 to shave your head. So she just started shaving our heads at the house at number 2. And little by little, my friends were like, you could, instead of, my mom was busy or something, they were like, oh, just shave my head because I'm going out. So I would shave their head. And they would shave mine and back and forth. And then one day, one of them was like, had the bright idea. It's like, why don't you try to give me a fade? If you mess up, you just shave it with a 0. If it's good, then I have a fade with a 2 and a 0, So I attempted, but in 90-something, the fades weren't as perfect as they are today. Like if I had to battle with, I feel sometimes bad for the kids that are starting their career, because I'm like, there's some really good fades out there right now, So if you see those, it's, it's impressive. You're like, wow, like I have to compete with that, Back then it wasn't like that. Plus we had no Instagram. No internet,
social media,
none of thing. We have nothing to base it off but the pictures at the barbershop.
You had MSN.
Yeah, exactly. That's about it. Yeah. So, you saw the pictures on the thing in the movies, stuff like that is where you kind of got a glimpse of what that could be, And so I started doing that, and I would cut hair in my backyard for $5 or for free or whatever. And I had friends knocking on my window. And my mom would get so pissed because I would cut their hair sometimes in the house on the rug. And it was like light rug, so it would just get full of hair. And she would get so upset because, my whole rug would just be balls of hair. Like these kids would come like all fuzzy and would just literally shaving their heads or a 2 and a 0 fake. That's all I knew how to do. And a half good one at that, And so that's how the very, very early of, stage of me starting to kind of cut hair. But I'm going to go back and forth. Again, it wasn't in my plans to be a barber or anything, but, it started seeming like a good thing because, I was having all these struggles in school and I'm, meeting all these friends and everybody's like, like all of a sudden I'm like, I have this cool thing about me, which is...
And you have a clientele.
Yeah, and I'm starting to people are starting to gravitate towards me because of this cutting hair thing. And I'm like, wow, this could be a cool thing, Maybe I should look into this. But God had plans, so one of the machines, the one and only machine that we have in my house breaks halfway through his haircut. So I cried to my mom, Mom, please let me get $10 because I got to take this friend of mine to the barbershop to fix his hair. And she's like, you're crazy. I'm not paying for his haircut. You tell his parents to go pay. And I'm like, please, please. So she finally gave me the $10. And I go over to the local barbershop with him. That most of the time I would be getting haircuts there because they couldn't cut my hair, obviously, my friends. And so when they saw me sitting with the guy, the owner of the shop is like, who cut the other side of this guy's head? And I was just like, shh, quiet, Like,
shy.
Yeah, shy. And I don't want to say it was me, These guys were all barbers for years, pros, And I looked up to these guys. And they were like, back then there wasn't as many barbershops as there is today. So it was like your one barbershop in the town was like, where everybody went, it was like a line. So I see these guys like...
I used to wait 2 to 3 hours for a haircut.
Oh, exactly.
Back in 2002.
Right. Well, this was in 98, 90
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I started cutting hair in 98, in 97. This was probably in 97, imagine. And So the guy's like, my buddy's like, he cut it, you know, and then the owner of the barbershop, this older gentleman, he's like, yeah, all right, grab these machines right here and finish it.
And fix it.
And I'm like, no, man, I don't know how to use these machines. I have the machine, the plastic wall, the little old school wall that you buy at Walmart. And the guy's like, go, dale. He's Cuban guy, and he's like, dale, let's go. And I'm like, all right. So he moves over, and I got the stuff. I'm so nervous, and I don't know how I just finished this haircut. And I forgot to say I was working at a pet shop during this time because I was on work experience. Because back then if you had learning disability, they try to get you in the work field. And so this guy tells me, all right, you have a job. And I go, I wasn't even looking for a job. He goes, look, you start tomorrow. And I'm like, I can't. There's no way, man. I have another job. I work at a pet shop, and they pay me really well. I make like $150 to $200 a week. And he goes, a week? In Spanish, son abusadores. Those guys are abusers, you know? He's like, look, if you don't make $200 a day here, I'll pay you the rest out of my pocket. And I go, what'd you say? A day? If I don't make $200 a day? And he goes, if you don't make $200 a day here, I'll give you the difference. So I got on the shop phone. I called the pet shop, and I go, hey, how are you guys? Just wanted to let you know I'm not going to make it in tomorrow. And that was on a Saturday. I went to work on Sunday. On that Sunday, I made like $100 and something.
Wow.
Cutting hair. And that's when haircuts were $9, you know? So you can imagine.
You had to cut a lot of hair.
Cut a lot of hair. But like you said, people will wait for 2 hours. And the difference, again, young barbers, like, it's completely different now than back then. Back then, there was a line out the door. The owner of the shop was like, you're getting a haircut with him. Like, it was not like, oh, I want a haircut with him. No, buddy. You're getting a haircut with whoever's available. Or if not, go. There's nowhere else to go. I mean,
find somewhere
else. Yeah, good luck. And find somewhere else that did good fades. In 1998, in 99,
fades wasn't that popular.
Right, so it was hard to find a good place. So they were known for fades. Their place was called Fade Masters. And it's called Father and Son Fade Masters. I give those guys, a lot of credit because they didn't only teach me. Probably, and as you go through this process of interviewing other guys, you're gonna continue to hear probably about these guys because in my area, a lot of the successful guys stem out of that barbershop or another barbershop they opened. Like, probably I would say 70% of the guys that are successful either work directly in that shop or have worked under one of the guys that worked in that shop, me being one of them. So, like, we've all been able to, like, those guys trained us, and it's just like they're like, it's like a perfect example, like Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, black belt, and all the people that they've impacted. That shop in in my area is the same as the Gracie's, like
Gracie Baja.
Right. They were the kind of like the seed, and then they taught us, and then we branched out and all became successful business owners and so on and so forth. And that's grown from that shop, and I've been able to see that in 20-something years of cutting hair. And
I'm very grateful for the guy that taught me too. He was a Puerto Rican working in a barbershop, Dominican barbershop. And they don't even know how much they helped us. I can say it this way. I don't have another word right now in English but he don't know how much he helped me to become who I am today. Yeah. And I went back, I think it was a year ago, I went to the shop he works at. He works for a friend of mine. I gave him a hug, and I was thanking him. I was being just grateful for his life, whatever he done for me without his notice. Yeah. And he looked at me like impressed, like, did I do something? Yeah, man, you grabbed my hands, you taught me how to cut hair, you gave me inspirational words, and you guide me. So they don't know how much they help us, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. And then, so back to the story. So I started cutting hair there. I left the pet shop job, and just took off. I started working in the shop, making $100, $200, $150 a day. That was on a half a day of work because I was still in high school. I was in 11th grade. So I started cutting hair. The teachers started getting wind of it. I was bringing my machines to school, cutting the teachers' hair at the school, or the teachers would come. I mean, it got busy fast, and like I said, it, just because of the era, the lack of barbershops and the lack of barbers at the time, we had lines out the door at the time.
But your first client was a dog.
My first client was not a dog, but
No, because you say you worked at the bar,
at the
pet shop.
At the pet shop. Yeah.
But you weren't cutting
No,
hair.
I wasn't cutting hair. I actually bathed cats, which was that was very interesting. Yeah. I actually have a funny story about the pet shop.
Sure.
Yeah. So one of the times they have like a big fire extinguisher, and I was working, and I was still like a clumsy kid, and they had this big ladder, so they had me cleaning all the fish tanks. So I went. He told me go get the ladder in the back because there's high fish tanks. So I get the ladder and I go to take it out and I clip the fire extinguisher. This massive fire extinguisher falls and a big cloud just explodes, and I kill every single fish. I'm talking about thousands of dollars of saltwater fish.
God.
Kill all the fish. Contaminated all the ferrets, all the birds. I mean, the guy had a great business. He had all type of animals, and the cleanup was brutal. I'm talking about there was dust everywhere. And the worst part was that we lost all the fish. So he had me clean every single tank. It was embarrassing, man. That was bad.
How was your journey until you get to your shop? So you work at the barber shop, and tell me the journey. Where you get to your own shop?
So I worked for those guys. Again, they taught me. I remember. These guys were again different times. Things that were done back then that you can't do today. We always share this in the barbershop amongst us, and it's like back then, if you did a bad haircut on the spot, you could be like, "Hey, excuse me," to the client, "Come here real quick." He still hasn't, he still needs to work on that haircut. These barbers would do that. You do that now, the client will either get pissed. The clients were grateful back then when the owners did that. Like, they brought them back in because there was a little shadow in the back. And maybe it wasn't that the haircut was bad. It was just that maybe, you left a little shadow, or maybe you didn't clean the neck well, or, so back then, the owner of the shop would be like, "Oh, come here real quick. Sit back down, Javi. You forgot to do this and this. Please finish that."
And the client left like happy.
Yeah, he come back like grateful to the owner for bringing him back, not upset. Do you do that now? The client, probably, most clients now will get upset, and the barber will be very embarrassed. Back then, it was normal, So I had a lot of that in my training. It was like, "You finished that? No, I don't think so. Come back over here. I think he needs a little more scissors on the side there. And blend that in a little better, or get your one guard back on, and that mid fade needs to get worked a little bit more. I'm sorry, The client was like, "Oh, no problem. Sit back down," and that guy would come back and get his haircut with you. It wasn't like, "Oh, you messed me up," last time. Because we were giving good haircuts. It was just, I was in the learning process, so there was little things that I was still not, accustomed to. So I worked for those guys. I mean, they trained me. They had us do like the stuff that, like moving just the thumb, just there for hours, scissor over comb, in the air, just for hours, just there. They would tell us, if you're not cutting hair, you're shaving balloons, you're air cutting. It's just like, it was military back then, Again, I just, a lot of that is lost now. It's rare that you see barbers that come into the shop and like are just that passionate, that are willing to do that. Back then, there was no other way. And so I worked for them for like 4 years. We were at that a little shop, and then they moved to another location, which I was able to help them open. And I saw that all happen, and I saw the process of that. And so I saw the process of what it took to establish a new barbershop, from zero. Even though, again, we had our clientele and stuff, but I saw what it took like to move a shop, and I got to experience that, And something I do want to say is that I feel is very important, and I might have heard it in one of the clips that you posted, but the importance of, the little things at the shop, like the brooming, the throwing out the garbage. I did that, and they taught me how to do that. I get goosebumps even saying that, because the importance of that, I almost could say that it's a big part of my success overall. The attention to the little details at the barbershop when it comes to that has made all the difference, because I feel like a lot of the guys that I saw taking those type of actions in the barbershop are some of the same guys that own successful barbershops today. So again, being mindful of that in the barbershop, even if it's not your barbershop, you know, might it be a barber that's working for you, working for me, or working for anybody out there, you know, when when an owner sees you doing that, he knows the type of barber that he has.
And those clients, the owner, those people are watching you unconsciously too.
Yeah.
And also, I have to say that to become a great business owner, you have to be an excellent employee.
Exactly.
So
yes, exactly. So that's I guess where I'm getting at. You know, I tried to be as best employee as the best employee I could be at the time. You know, and yeah, man. So these guys trained me, and we moved to a place where we were next to a movie theater, and the barbershop just took off, and my clientele, I mean, exploded. I was also blessed that I grew up around the area that I played baseball. I went to high school, so I had gathered a lot of friends. So a lot of my friends would come to the shop, and my clientele just like I learned a lot on the job. You know, when I was there, I had these great mentors cutting alongside me. There's just one guy, Camacho, that I give so much credit for, because at that time he was a young guy, and that guy would do 30 something heads a day. And I'm talking about precision. He still cuts hair today, and he's also one of those guys that he's taught a lot of guys how to cut hair. And that guy, that he actually, I brought him machines. This is another good story. I brought him machines, and he saw them. He got them all. He threw them in the garbage. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, you're crazy. I just spent like all this money. He got it, threw them in the garbage, took me in his car, drove around all of Miami buying all new machines out of his pocket. He bought me all the machines, like the Oster at the time, the 76er.
the one that makes the noise.
Yeah, the original
Like
one. You couldn't even
like
buy
a
it.
grass cutter.
Yeah, you couldn't even buy it at Sally's yet, or wherever the local. We went and got it at a pet shop, and all the steel guards, they were all from the pet store, because you couldn't find that in those places yet. Same machine, just different cover on the outside. Had the dog, like you're saying, we're cutting dog's hair. And so we got the machine, and he taught me how to use all of that. A little backstory on how I got my equipment to start cutting at another level. Because again, the equipment is important in what we do.
Very important.
Yeah. And so yeah,
Actually,
man.
before you go forward, what is the importance of having a quality tools for you?
For me,
So because by sharing that, a lot of people that are listening and watching us will understand how important having a good tools.
yes,
you know?
definitely. And again, I learned that this is that story I said was early on in my barbering career, and that's when I learned the importance of it. I was giving these fades, and I thought I was doing all this good, but this guy, throwing all the stuff away, and like the story that I just shared, when I started cutting hair with these it took a little time to get adjusted to the new machines, but my haircuts, just took off. There was like the fades were cleaner. The scissors were good. I had 2-3 different scissors, quality scissors. So now, I'm not using the same scissor for every part of the haircut, and I'm, good thinning shears and everything. So it's like an artist with having one brush or 10 different good brushes. And now my haircuts are, just coming out 10 times better than I was. So again, to what you're asking, it's like, yeah, the importance of having good tools it's a very important part of what we do. And I feel like if you try it, and you'll see the benefits of having good tools just on your work, just spending the extra money on good scissors, good machines, quality.
Is that an investment or is that spending money for you?
No, it's definitely an investment. It's definitely.
I'm asking because I'm trying to push it to this side so whoever listening to
Yes,
understand.
no, I
how
agree. I'm
important-
sorry. But definitely an investment. It's an investment in what we do, of course. And I don't even these days. A lot of times, my machine will fall or something. I just get a little bit. I'm not happy with it. Not that I throw it away, but so what I'll do is I'll get it refurbished, and I'll give it away to a client so they can tape up their beard or something else, and I'll just buy a new one. That's how I've gotten lately. Before, I used to send them to get refurbished and save my machines for years, when obviously haircuts were $9 and it was a little bit tougher. But, now that I'm blessed with a bigger clientele and we charge a little more, I take pride in having good equipment. So I will make sure that the machines are, tip-top shape. So it's definitely a good investment in ourselves to have good tools.
And then how did you become a shop owner from that? Moving to a bigger shop, you had this learning experience where you saw the whole process of opening a bigger place, moving, license, construction. But then how long did you stay there, and what made you open your own shop?
So from there, I worked for like another 2 years for them, and one of my friends was actually working on building that shop that my first shop that I bought, and he was helping somebody build the shop. Some other guy decided that he wanted to open a barbershop. He wasn't a barber or anything like that. So
Just
he
an
starts,
investor.
yeah, an investor, and he started building this barbershop, and my buddy's putting an AC. So, the guy that was doing it hit a wall. He couldn't find any, he didn't know what he was doing. He was just an investor trying to open a shop, and my buddy comes over to where I was working, and he tells me, hey, this is going on. And I was, still young. I was 20-something, 21, maybe 21, and just got married, so I had spent money on that, and we were saving up for a house, and he's like, this guy, wants to sell the shop. So everything I had saved was pretty much what I would have had to invest. I had no barbers, no knowledge, no nothing. And, I asked the guys where I was working if they want to partner up. They weren't interested in any partnerships or anything. So I was like, I took a leap of faith, and I said, I'm going to go for it. I called the guy, and I said, yeah, I'll take it, and with, it was a gutsy move at the time because I did not know what I was getting myself into. But I did have a good enough clientele and a good enough base where I felt like, at least with what I had, with my clientele, I can sustain and pay the rent. And
Until you find barbers.
and that was a struggle at that time, like it was bad. Like that's when I learned how to, I'll tell you a little backstory too. While I was working at the other shop, like the guy that taught me had taken off out of the state. And so I started kind of becoming that guy that would kind of mentor some of the newer guys that were coming in. So that's when I started learning how to teach guys. I didn't even know it at the time, but I was kind of already taking on that role. So when I got the new shop, at first it was a struggle. Like I wanted to find these barbers that knew how to cut already, and I wanted these guys that came in polished and with the clientele, and I was always looking for that, and I'm like, why is this not happening for me? But slowly but surely I started realizing that my place was more of get guys that are, not polished and polish them, and then I started having the realization that that's what they did with me, and then that's when things started to make sense as a shop owner, because before that, it was me cutting hair to pay the rent of the barbershop and help my wife, with stuff at the house. So it was, we were tight. We were living a tight.
Does your wife, what does she do? Because she does help you at the shop too?
No.
Like Lydia, she's my right hand
At the shop, yeah.
at the shop. She does everything behind.
Yeah.
And
Well, my wife, she's actually she's into accounting at the bank.
Oh.
She's in accounting, yeah. So, but she helps me out, with a lot of stuff, and she does a lot of the legwork when it comes to paperwork and help me with all of that stuff, and obviously the account, numbers and the bills and stuff.
we're not good at that.
No, definitely not good at that, but I'm grateful that I have her and that she's always on top of all that stuff and helping me out. But at the shop itself, I'm pretty much, in charge there, and doing all the promotions and all that stuff. Is on that side, I'm more of the one that's in charge of that stuff. But
This place that you bought, you worked for how long? And then now I know you moved to a bigger place.
yes. So here's the story behind all of that. So I get that first shop, different name, different everything. And here's where the story that, I don't know how long this podcast is going to go for, but
Don't worry.
so here's where this whole part that you guys had kind of asked me, to kind of dive into about, the drugs and the recovery and, how it all ties in to the start of all of that. And not that the barbershop had anything to do with me using or anything like that. Like that was I brought that, with me, and I remember kind of like starting to dabble with the, marijuana, smoking a little weed. And I feel like that was like not part of the barbershop, part of the culture back then. There was a lot of, at least where I was at, there was a lot of, people smoking weed and drinking. And so, that kind of it wasn't a problem yet, but it was starting to become a problem, So I get this new shop, and I'm like a little kid, like when you move out of your house for the first time, It's like, the shop was kind of like my first apartment alone.
We think we know it. We are the shit when we are young, right?
Exactly. And then I started, we all started, Friday nights drinking at the barbershop, smoking, and, doing all this crazy stuff at the and after, and all the people that are coming into the barbershop, because that's, a big part of my problem was like the friends that I meet there. And then it's like, oh, what are you doing tonight? Let's go, boom. And then it would progress into like going out that night or the hookup at the club and partying and on and on and on. And again, not that it was anybody's fault. It was totally my fault. It was my problem, that I could never stop. Or, if I had started drinking and partying, it would go for days. But
what problems that brought to you?
Oh, tremendous problems, yeah. It was all fun. It was all fun until it wasn't fun anymore, That was the thing. There was a lot of good times, so-called good times. But
how long you were dependent on drugs, and what did you do to get off?
Yeah, I'll tell you now, and it all ties in with the barbershop a little bit too, because so I was using since I was like 13. I started smoking weed and kind of drinking here and there, and went all the way to like 30. I've been sober now for 6.5 years.
Congrats,
so 30
brother.
something, yeah. So it was a long run, I guess, considerably long run, and but I lost my shop, man. The one of the biggest, and this gets me emotional because it was tough times, man. Like I let that go. I got so, how can I put this? Like I was just like, I wasn't grateful. I wasn't grateful for what I had. I wasn't grateful for anything. Like I was like, this is annoying to me. Like having to deal with these guys here, and like the barbers were annoying. Everything with the business was annoying me. I had a perfectly good business that was making me money, but that wasn't enough money. Like nothing was enough. Nothing was fulfilling me, And I let it go. I let that go. Lost it, whatever you want to call it. My house, my cars. I mean, I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about
You believe that happened for a reason?
Now I do. I mean, if you don't go, if I wouldn't have gone down, I wouldn't be where I am today. But not the problem, but it happened gradually and for a long time. Like I was dragging along the bottom without noticing for such a long time, and it was so bad.
Maybe they didn't want to see it at the time.
That's what I'm saying. I look back now, and I was just like, I like the type of decisions like that. Like you get rid of your barbershop, you sell it, and you go like to Ibiza and like party away all the money. Like it's just insanity. Instead of making smart, decisions. And I mean, I didn't even have to get rid of the shop. It was a perfectly good shop making money. But again, I was overwhelmed. That's the word. I was overwhelmed by any little thing, because how can I not be if I'm staying up all night, using, drinking, and then come back the next day frustrated, try to make ends meet, go back out, come back in, and then it's not only me, it's everybody around me. Where I'm intoxicating the whole environment. Not that the environment wasn't part of the problem, but I'm the owner and leader of the shop. I wasn't being a good leader.
It's all cutting you off. It's good to understand who we've been surrounded with.
Yeah.
That's the cycle with the people that you live with. They're gonna drag you. They're gonna help you succeed, or they're gonna drag down with them.
Yeah,
so
exactly. And one thing that I will say is that I'm very happy, like the direction that the barbershop is going now. Not that I think, like again, I always say like I was a problem that I brought into the barbershop, but just in general, I see that barbershops, people are taking it more serious now, and you don't see as much drug use and that type of environment. People are more serious about the business these days, and I'm super happy because, I know when I was coming up in the business, there was so much alcoholism and drug abuse, and I see younger kids now, and they come in and they're hungry to work, or they're hungry to learn, or they're, whatever it is, but drugs and alcohol and all of that stuff is not a problem for as many people as when I started cutting hair. I felt like everybody in the industry was. A lot of people in the industry were using, and that was all part of the aura of
culture.
Of
part
the culture.
Of the lifestyle of being a barber.
Correct. And now it's not as much. Now it's more, about what we do now, which is, like putting good haircuts, quality, having fun, going contact, meeting other guys, and the culture has kind of changed, and in that sense. So that, I'm happy about that.
What did you do when you lost your shop? So you basically lost in the sense that you didn't sell it. You just like closed the doors and
No,
whatever.
I did sell it. But I undersold it like big time. I basically gave it away. I mean, I sold it for as much as I opened it for, and I had worked on building it. I was desperate. I was desperate to get out of it because, again, I was just not in the right state of mind to be the owner. So I stayed working there. For years, and I sold it to a guy that ended up becoming a good friend of mine, and he kept the shop running and kept it going, and I'm grateful for him that he he kept the vision. I saw the one thing I did right in the whole thing was sell it. I always felt like I wanted to sell it to a guy that was going to kind of keep the same type of barbershop that I ran, and thankfully he was the right guy, and he did do that. And so I stayed working for him for the next 5, 6, 7 years. I can't remember exactly, but I stayed working with him while things just kept going straight downhill. I'm talking about, it was, we talk about.
For the shop or for you?
For me, personally. Once everything kind of I got rid of everything. We call it falling uphill. I was falling uphill for a long time. Everything was going really, really, really good while I was doing all these, let's call it bad stuff, And then I started falling downhill, and then I was going downhill fast, and things got pretty bad. Again, still some signs of fun, and sometimes we would have good times, but things were just getting darker and darker. With my wife, with my life, my friends, and then it started becoming a problem because it started becoming the problem where I would try to stop. Here goes this, for guys like me, it's jails, death, or institutions. Those are the 3 options. So they started happening. Started going to jail, started getting pulled over by the cops, started fighting everywhere. Like things just spiraled down and down. And the sad part was that my wife got the brunt of a lot of it because we would be having fun somewhere, and we would get home, and I'd keep drinking, and it'd be a major pain in the butt from, let's say, 4 a.m. till the next day, which I would not stop using and drinking and all that. She would have to deal with that. When people would be like, Javi, but you're so cool and you're such a nice guy when we were out last night, but they didn't see
She's the one by your side always.
Yeah, they didn't see the dark side. They saw me having fun at the club or a party that we were at or whatever, but that's a problem. That would be on, let's say, Friday night. I had to work on Saturday, so keep going, all day work, hiding, using, smoking, going to the car, the beer's hiding in the refrigerator all day, then Saturday all day. So, what would that, those nights would get.
You served time. How long?
And I didn't serve time like that, but I went to jail for, little things, it was nights, 2, 3 nights, but, more than I wanted. I went to jail twice for fighting, for drugs, it was just unnecessary. It's just really unnecessary.
Let me share something on my side. I got locked up for 4 hours because I was driving with suspended lights.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know this about me, only my wife, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I was doing so many things wrong. I used to drink and drive, use drugs. I used to do so many things wrong, and we couldn't see, right? We couldn't get out of this situation.
No.
So I served 4 hours.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of my times was probably, 24. And I mean, nothing serious, but again, why, again, we're good guys. Like, why do we want to put ourselves in those situations, when in reality, that's not who we are. That's not my identity. That's not the guy that I am.
Do you think there's something to do with ADHD or dyslexia?
No, I mean, I belong. I'm in the AA program, and now in recovery, and you hear so many stories, so many different people with good parents that became people that could read, that couldn't read. I mean, there's
but the same way people been through like abused
Yeah.
somehow, physically or not physically. I felt like since we've been through all that behind us with dyslexia, I don't know how can I say this, but I feel
I
like
have a really good answer for you. This is
give me the answer. You
this is
already
a-
understand my question.
This is a very good. It's a little bit deep, but honestly, the problem is a spiritual problem.
I
know?
truly believe that too.
It's a spiritual problem, and all of those things that you're saying are the excuses we use to justify why we drink and drug and do all those things. Those are the reasons why we say, I'm going to drink because I can't read. Like, I deserve drinking. If you were me, you don't understand, but if you were me, you drink too. If you had to deal with getting made fun of in school, you drink too and do drugs too.
Yeah.
But that's not actually the problem. The problem is that what really filled me was God. Until I didn't find that, I was never satisfied with anything. Now, I have all the same stuff that I used to have, all the, the baggage, let's call it, that I used to have. I'm dyslexic. I'm still all the same things that I always were, but I'm not drinking over them today. So, my background doesn't define who I am or that I have to drink or not drink,
You stop finding other things to fulfill the emptiness you had.
Exactly.
Could be drugs, could be alcohol, could be sex, could be
Everything.
whatever. People always find something to get addicted to like feel fulfilled.
Exactly.
But it doesn't work.
It doesn't work, and God did. God came into my life, and I'll tell you how I got there. I mean, I ended up getting Baker acted. Things like, to not make a long story long, things just spiraled down to the point where, I had lost everything, and I got Baker acted. I literally wanted to kill myself. I was at the lowest point that I could be. There's always people that have gotten lower than me, I'm sure, but for me, it was the lowest point of my life. And I was contemplating, suicide.
Suicide. What?
Yeah.
I don't know if you don't want to answer this.
I'm
what,
open book, man.
what happened to your mind when you think like suicide?
I mean, I saw nowhere else to go. It's like if you corner a cat, like that's it. I couldn't, at the moment, I couldn't see nothing else. I was like, there's no other option right now but death. Started seeming like a good idea. I was like, this might be a good idea. Like, it's sad to say that we would go there, but I was in that place, like that I started thinking this could be a good idea, like just not being here. Because I couldn't quiet, like what she was saying, nothing was filling in that emptiness. Nothing was making sense. So I started thinking crazy thoughts, and a bad chain of events ended me up in getting Baker acted, and and that's where, this was going to be hard to say, but that's where I did my first prayer. I got on my knees in the place. I did not know what I was doing, but again, just like the thought of suicide, the only other thought that I had, it was either the darkness or the light. There's nothing in the middle at that moment, So it was, all right, I thought about killing myself and couldn't go through with that. My next, now I'm in a place where they're not going to let me do that either. So my next option was get on my knees next to this bed and say, God, if you're real, I need you right now. And that was the beginning of the life that I'm living now.
Wow.
Yeah.
You came from a Christian family?
I did not. I was actually raised Catholic. I was raised Catholic, and my wife's parents are Christian, and she was a Christian, but I pulled her away from the church. We both went away from the church. Living everything that I'm telling you, just partying and supposed having fun. Which, I guess it could be fun. I just had the problem, like I didn't know how to stop. And I'm sure there's people that can go out, have a drink, and come home and not drink for another 6 months. That wasn't me.
What happened to your life after you prayed, and then now you have your own shop, a successful barbershop?
Yeah, so that, again, they're long stories, but, like I had that, this is the miracle, man. Like, a lot of people don't know this, but I did that prayer. The very next day, they were giving me medication at the place. I tried to swallow the medication and it wouldn't go down. I could not swallow the pills. I had never not been able to swallow a pill before that. Tried to swallow the pill. I left it on my tongue. I spit it out in the garbage when I went to my room. Next day, same thing. They gave me the medication. Tried to swallow it. It just wouldn't pass my throat for nothing. I didn't know that then, but I know today that was God. You know? He's like, you're not taking this medication. I spit it out. Psychologist saw me. He's like, you know, you look like you're doing so good. I was talking completely different. I was a different person from 2 days ago. He's like, what happened? So I started talking to him and telling him what I had done. And like he knew something had happened, you know? I mean, these guys, not only that they're working there, but I come to find out that they are also have gone through a lot of, you know, the guys that are working these places, they're also, they've also gone through some of the same stuff that I've gone through, you know? So they're there to help guys like me, you know? And he let me out of there and he goes, just make me 2 promises. You're going to go to a, you know, recovery center after this and you're going to join AA. And I go, deal, done deal, you know, just get me out of here. And I kept my side of the promise. And I left there and that's when something had happened before that and my wife had called one of these AA rooms and we thought we needed insurance to, you know, to be a part of it and all that. So she was talking to a guy. The guy came to the barbershop. I was crossing the street, gonna go get a drink across the street. And the guy came up to me and he's like, you Javier? And I'm like, yeah, I didn't know this guy. And he's like, I mean, obviously, if you're an alcoholic or drug addict, you can see another one and be like, I know that he's the guy, you know? And he came up to me crossing the street and he goes, there's a place for you. I know how you feel. Here's my number. Whenever you're ready, give me a call. That's all he said.
Wow.
When I got out of that place, the first room that I went to, I walked in, the first AA room that I walked into, I walked through the door. He's working the coffee bar.
Wow.
And that's when I was like, God, you know, I that's it. You know, like I was broken. I broke down, and the journey started from there. I'll make this story short so we can get back to the barbershop stuff. But my life in recovery started, and you know, I celebrated a year and another, and then the onion went unfolding, and God. I came out of that place. I went back to the barbershop that I originally sold, and the environment just I didn't feel it inside me, and not that they weren't doing any. I couldn't be there. You know, I needed some space. I left the place. I went to work in a little old barbershop around the neighborhood, and you know, just kind of got myself together there. And the guy that I had sold it to decided that he wanted to move the shop that I had sold him. And again, you know, God has plans, man, and he moved to a new location, beautiful location, successful business owner as well, just like me, and Chopper's Barbershop. Those guys are amazing as well. And he moved the shop and told me, Javi, if you want, I'll sell you back the shop. And he sold it to me at a very reasonable price.
No way.
Very, very reasonable price.
You bought your old shop
I bought
back.
my old shop back.
Wow.
And that's how
Whoa.
God works.
Oh my God.
I think God was preparing
I
you
can't
for
believe.
all you got today.
Everything.
It
And
was
then-
supposed to be yours.
Yeah, it was always. And I was,
Wow.
you know, I worked, I mean, I built that shop from,
Wow.
I'm telling you, I had no barbers by myself. They're just grinding, you know, one client at a time there and teaching guys. And, you know, I built that little shop from nothing, you know, and God put me right back there with nothing again, you know, with no barbers again, like if it was day one by myself. Me and my wife sat there. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, good
I can't
stuff.
believe.
You have your son,
Wow.
right? How old is he now, you said?
4.
4 years
He
old.
didn't get to see this.
Let me give this analogy. Is that analogy?
Yeah.
I don't know what you want to say.
Do you have the gut to have your keys, your car keys in your hands, and give it to your 4 years old son to drive?
Right now, no.
You know why God haven't given all the things
100%,
before?
yeah.
Because you had to become who you are today. You had to become the person to be able to hold all that in your back.
You needed to have maturity
Yes,
to
I agree.
run the
Yeah, no,
business.
and to add on to what you're saying, the person that I am today, how many people am I impacting in my circles and the people that I get to help. And I mean, God has given me, I'm talking about, gave me that shop back, built it, remodeled it. I had nothing. I had no money. I was broke. God found a way we to help me get that shop running again. I mean, obviously, I'm going to give a humongous shout out to all my clients because through thick and thin, they would come get haircuts religiously, you know? Like, no matter what. They were always there as well as part of this process. You know, my clients are our clients, are the clients that come to our shops. You know, like, without any of them, me and you would be just some lost dyslexic kids. I mean, like, let's be realistic, you know? Like, no matter how, like, the fact that the clients appreciate what we do and like what we do and love us,
Yeah.
it's an amazing, I'm super grateful to my clients.
Before you go there, and making another analogy is the founder of Walmart. He says the only person that can fire you from the chairman down is your client.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I like
So-
that. That's good. And yeah, so man, so we built this barbershop back up, you know, and that's one of the times that I started, that I came to see you and took your class, and I started getting, during this whole story, I used to go to hair shows. Aside from everything that was going on, you know, especially in my early, because when I first started working, I didn't even have a license. That guy gave me a job with no license, with no nothing, and told me, go get your license, go do this, you know. And I went to school. I was going to school while I was cutting hair there. You know, again, we don't suggest you do that, but this is what happened to me, you know. The
gave you the opportunity.
gave me the
before.
opportunity.
Yeah.
But I fell in love with hair, cutting hair, and I would go to the shows. And one of my teachers at the time, she started taking us to the Palm Mitchell shows, and like we were all, me and some of my friends, we were all in. But I had lost all of that. Like, I had lost my vision. I had lost all of that. All that was gone. The joy that I found in cutting hair and all that was all gone. And then when I got all of this started coming back, all this joy, because my head wasn't around everything. So all this stuff started coming back. I started going to the hair shows, and I started getting back in touch with people like you, other guys in the industry, and started reaching out to guys. And because again, I've been cutting hair for 20 years. Not that I'm a superstar or not, but I mean, it counts for something, and so I was curious to see what all these other guys were doing. And I think, thanks to Instagram and everything that's happened with that for our industry, which is, I think is one of the best things that's happened for our industry, because we were finally able to see, I can see what you're doing and you can see what I'm doing. We can stay in touch, and I can see your haircuts and I can learn from that. And I can see what a guy's doing in China. If I think it's cool, I can implement it into my thing. I would have never been able to do that. That's been huge for our industry, So I started reaching out to guys, and I started getting back involved in the industry and really, diving back in. And I really embraced the part, which what I told you, which is, mentoring guys, young guys that are coming into my shop, and same as the old, and mentoring guys that have problems with drug abuse and addiction, and God has just taken my life and just kind of like skyrocketed. That's how we got the new shop. Honestly, I can take no credit for it, because during the COVID, there was a for rent sign. I had seen the shop. It was a salon. They closed down. I went over there and I said, God, I've always had my eye on this place. Your will be done, not mine. If this shop is for me, let it be. You open the doors, and if it's not, I'm fine where I'm at. I was so happy with my little shop back. I was grateful. I'm talking about grateful. My little shop that I was.
How many chairs you had?
In that shop? At one point we had 12, I think, but before now we had 6. I brought it back down because I wanted like a good small group of guys that were, like. Just,
And you called the little shop 12 chairs?
Wait, no, it's little in size. We just squeezed when we had 12. It was. I'll tell you this though. No matter everything that was going on, everything that I've said in the story, we've always been good to our clients as well, and we've always been very busy. Very busy. So that's why we had 12 chairs, because we were in a little mall. We were a little, it was 1,700 square feet. We had 700 square feet. We had 12 chairs.
How'd you do that?
Yeah, exactly.
What's
we,
the math?
we couldn't go around the chair. Like, we'd have to say, excuse me. No, we were fine as long as we both weren't cutting hair on the same side.
Same side.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but we were tight, but the place was like this throughout this whole story. We were cutting hair like you guys couldn't imagine.
Guys, this meaning packed.
Packed,
Okay.
yeah, packed.
In Brazil, that's bad.
Yeah, oh, okay.
That's saying we were fucked.
Yeah, no.
Those words.
No. So in this, we were packed. We were busy. The shop was, just always full throughout this whole. So we were cutting a lot of hair. So when I got it back, I brought it down to a six-man operation, and
But you moved to a bigger place and brought it down to 6.
no, now in the new place we have 9 stations.
Oh, cool.
9 stations. No,
Okay.
now we have.
Yeah, you brought it down to 6 when you still were there. Now you okay.
Now we have a beautiful new shop, man. Now it's like that. This one's very cool. This is like for
Your
me.
dream shop.
This is more than my dream shop. I'm telling you, I was very happy where I was. I was in my dream shop right before this one. This one exceeded all my dreams.
I can see you doing so well, and I'm very happy for you. I'm just not saying this from just words.
Yeah.
It's empathy and being genuine.
Thank you.
I have a question here. Hold on.
Yeah, of
Let's
course.
read it again. What does a barber have to do to become a barbershop owner on your perspective?
Well, like we said earlier, I mean, being
Because our dream when we start is like,
Yeah.
I want to have my own shop.
right.
So what did you do? So what?
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I don't think everybody has, the, I don't think everybody's might be intended to be, or what's the word I'm looking for, a shop owner. I don't think that's for everybody. But if that's your dreams and that's what you want to do, like we said earlier, one of the big ones is being the employee that acts like the shop is his.
Wow.
Yes.
If you're that employee, you're already on your way.
That's true.
You
So
know?
true.
Like
So
those
true.
guys, and when I see those guys throughout that have worked for me and act like that, my first thing is like, whenever you're ready, you let me know, and I'll help you in any way you want, because they have the gift, and I feel like they should go for it, like, why not? I always encourage guys, like, if they have the gift and they have the dream and they have the drive, then go for it. And that's all I feel like you really need to do. Look at both of our stories. We're two guys that are not the most likely to succeed according to
Society.
to societies, and all we did was be good employees, work hard, and
Respect people,
Yeah.
give our best, going 1 mile more than
exactly, and then just keep pushing forward, doing all of those things that you just said, little by little, every day, and things will continue to open up.
one thing that makes actually what makes me I want to share this because it might help someone. I was so booked. I was doing 30 to 35 haircuts a day. She knows it.
Yeah.
I was so booked, but I was losing interest in and passion and love for my craft.
Yeah.
Because I was working from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., maybe 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. Sometimes she did the dinner and she said, "What time are you gonna come?" I say 7, and then I end up coming home like 11.
Yeah.
So I was losing passion for what I have done, and I had this ceiling in money-wise saying, I was this ceiling that was making some amount of money that I couldn't grow more.
Yeah.
I was so booked, I was so overwhelmed, and that people also drains your energy because you're there standing. There's also positive people that helped you in a way, but when you work with people and standing all day and all that information come to you, you kind of drain. So I was losing passion. The biggest reason why is that. So, and I trying to understand myself, how can I multiply myself to be, to serve more people,
Right.
and help more people. And then I end up like with the idea. Actually, I had the idea, but I never put into work to have my own shop. Now I multiplied myself in 7 barbers.
Right.
So all of them is giving, helping, I can say, by serving people and making them feel good and look good in a certain way, we're helping. So that's one of the biggest reasons. You want to add something?
Yeah, it's because barbers, you guys work with confidence, and a man that is confident about their appearance, they are better husband, they are better leaders, they are better, whatever they do better because they feel confident.
Yes.
And also barbers are kind of psychologists too, because then your client sees, and usually we develop this strong, deep relationship with them.
Yes.
And sometimes Tico has crazy stories about the client sitting like, man, I'm divorcing my wife. I can't. I'm divorcing. And then Tico comes and says, hey, man,
Many
wait.
times I talk them out.
What are you talking
Many
about?
times.
No, what do you guys need help with? And barbers are way more than just hair cutters, right? You're a psychologist.
Yeah, family, friend. I mean,
Family,
we fill in
friends.
so many of the.
And you
for some
work with
people.
their confidence, their self-esteem. And Tico was able to serve 30 people a day. But then when we open a bigger shop and then we have people working with us trained, we can serve more people and help, because I believe it's way more than haircut. We're just not cutting hair.
And
We're
I'll
doing
tell you
more than
this,
hair.
and that's the talent, and I think that you possess. It's like that you're able to pass this on to the next guy that sits next to you, and teach him the way that you got to do the 30, and now he can do the same, and that's our talent. The talent is not so much anymore about only the cutting, but that me and you are able to pass it on to the next guy. That's if I feel like. Go back to the question of opening your own shop. If you feel like that's something that's in your heart that you're going to be able to successfully, pass this on to another guy, then you're going to be a good shop owner, because you like guys like me and you're going to be able to mentor these guys and show them, hey, this is how it's done, and this is so they could talk to and do everything she says to another 30 clients, and provide a good service and good haircuts and make them feel good. So that's a big part of, I think, our gift as in this industry is not just that we cut good hair and that we do good divisions on the hair, and that that we blow dry really good hair. We put the product just the right way. It's also that we get to mentor these young guys coming in, and we get to share all this knowledge and experience that we have, not only about the haircuts, but how to treat the client, how to all this other stuff.
How you treat your people.
Yes, people in general, and all this other stuff that's overlooked, I think, in barbering, because the people always say, oh, which I think you do an amazing job. I took your class on explaining all of this stuff in your classes. It's not, a big part of it is just cutting hair. That's a big part, but it's not all of it.
It's not all of it.
There's so much more that goes into being a barber. To be a professional, good barber, it's not just only cutting good hair. It takes, being good, understanding clients, understanding the clients that are walking into the shop for the first time, understanding people.
You have to love people, I think.
Yes, you do have to love people, and you have to have patience with them, and amongst many other things that a lot of times it's hard for me to say them in an environment like this, because it's a lot easier for me, probably just like you, to say them in the environment when I'm working and when I'm mentoring guys. Like when the situation occurs, I'll talk to my barbers and I'll explain to them, oh, look, this just happened. Like I wanted to share this with you so that, it's like little lessons, little nuggets throughout the day that stuff that's happened. So I get to show them and teach them, or I'll call them over. Hey, come here. Think of this situation. This is how I dealt with it. This is what do you think? How would you deal with it? And they were like, oh, this, that, and I'm like, oh, that sounds good. I like that, and so I learn from them as well, and they teach me. So I bring up scenarios as they happen to my barbers. And
You actually have a young barber that took one of our classes.
Stefan,
right? When he came, he was, I think, in the early stages of learning how to cut hair.
Maybe in the first year, less?
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
And we've been following him on Instagram and seeing his progress. He's still by your side, which is amazing.
yes.
What you did for that kid, take the time, the patience. Hey, come with me. I bet when you hired him, he wasn't a good barber in technical skills, but then you had all this patience and love to train him. And now we're seeing his progress. It's amazing.
Actually,
Congrats.
in the same topic, how do you what are the requirements to hire a person that work with you, like a barber? What do we look
For
you
sure,
looking for?
dyslexia and the two top things, that
HD.
HDHD and dyslexia. No, I'm playing. No, man. I mean, I can't put my finger on exactly what it is. It's for me, it's more of a feeling thing, and something in my heart. Like, I've had really good, talented barbers come in sometimes, and I'm not feeling it, and I won't go that route, and I'll have a young kid that might not have all the stuff, and I'll give them an opportunity over somebody, So I just try to follow my heart in that. It's hard to really explain sometimes my thought process behind who I hire, and I've had, again, both sides. I've had guys that I've tried to teach that are just not open-minded, and I've had to part ways with them, and guys that are really good that also have certain hang-ups that we can't see eye to eye. So it's just a certain type of person that sometimes I want to be surrounded with, and that respect what we do, and we can respect each other to be on because when we work in the barbershop together, we become family. We're going to be there all day, every day.
So many hours together.
So many hours talking and doing what we do at the barbershop. You want to be surrounded by people that are that are good quality people, not just in the cutting hair aspect, just all around.
Yes, their values, personality.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for: values, personality, principles, energy, people that are positive, but not a single person that is written here or had a sign, I'm a good or bad person.
Right.
We're going to make mistakes to hire those people, but we're going to learn also from it. But we're trying to understand the person first, if they're going to fit our vision, our culture, by being a good person, a good team player,
No, and it's again, it's like let's say a marriage.
It's like marriage.
It's like a marriage.
True.
You go growing and learning together, and I hire people, and there's might be certain things they don't like about me, and back and forth, or we love about each other, but we don't know that until we're working side by side together, and you're able to talk. I guess open-mindedness is a big part of it. Like be able to talk to the person. I mean, look, I really don't like that you don't throw away your garbage every day, for example.
Yes.
Same thing as a marriage. You might tell Tico, hey, Tico,
Wash the dish.
please, I don't, I don't like doing this. Can you please help me out with that? And he, he's like, okay, I'll take care of that, no problem. Same thing. I think in the environment of the barbershop, people are not going to be perfect, but as long as they're open-minded enough to work with you and say, and you're able to work with them, like, hey, can you think you can do this or that different? Yes, no, okay. And then, I always ask my guys, like, is there anything that in our meetings, I'm always asking them, is there anything that you guys expect me to do different, or something that I need to know?
Because their feedback will help you to understand yourself even.
I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get better as an owner. I definitely fall short. Like I'm learning.
We're humans. We make mistakes,
right? So
right?
In our meetings, I always try to ask, like, what do you guys need from me? What do you need me to change or do, so that I can be better?
Let's talk about meetings. That's a really interesting topic, because we have meetings every once a month. But in between, we might need an emergency. We talk through our chat, or we do an emergency meeting. And most shop, they don't have that with their barbers. You do
How often?
How often you do your meetings, and how that benefits you and your shop and your team.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna start with this. We were really good at this, and we've gotten a little bit bad at it in the transition to this shop. Just to put that out there, it's again, it's not perfect. We're working on it, and if anybody's out there, this is the message. Like none of this is, black and white. Everything is, learning, and you try things, and
adapting.
then you adapting, go back. Sometimes you lose your way, but it works, so you adopt it. Yeah, you go back on track. So, but I do think having meetings is very important, as well as, trying to schedule events. Like we do a lot of photo shoots, sometimes with no necessary end purpose for them, but they're just so much fun. Like we'll go out to Wingwood and do like these photo shoots, and we laugh, and we just have a good time, and we also have content later for Instagram. But more importantly than even the content is the time that we have together out of the shop, and and it's not like this serious environment where, we're having a meeting and we're talking about different stuff, but it's not so like serious, like, hey, we're having we're like having a sit down meeting, like where, so in our shop, we kind of do different style meetings. We either do, like sit down, like, hey, when you talk about this, while I was doing the transition over to the new shop, we had a lot of them because obviously I wanted to get their input on all the stuff that was going on, and I wanted to keep them informed with everything that was going on, because 6 guys working, and those 6 guys have a big clientele. Some of my guys have been cutting hair for 20 years as well. So having those guys change even a little thing is, it's scary. It's scary to them because they're so stuck on, okay, this is working, like, why are we going to do anything, So we had a lot of little meetings throughout. So again, yeah, the answer is, yeah, it's very important to keep the group, the vision, keep the vision in the right track.
I think you have something to add on that one. How meeting is important.
So we do once a month. We made a couple mistakes in the first years. I would say mistakes because after I learned was not the right way to do it. So we would do meetings on their day off, which is not nice to bring them from their home, from their family to have a meeting. Right. We would do long meetings, 1 hour, 2 hours.
4 hours even.
Yeah. So we learned that meetings should be actually fun, should be something they look for it. Mm-hmm. And then we change the way we do. We do once a month. We do during working hours. We close a specific time from everybody's schedule. Then we eat together. We have some fun together. And then we prepare the meeting first, of course. And then we share with them how was the last month goals, if they reached the goals, if the company reached the goal. Then we set new goals. Then sometimes we have something to say, oh, we need to adjust this. This is not working. What do you guys think about it? How can we do better? And then it has been working much better that way. It's just like a 30 minutes meeting, really quick. We don't extend hours like we used to. And we have some time together too out of the shop. It's not something that is on the schedule. Correct. But since the team is so, they're friends, they're real friends. And then hey, let's do a barbecue at my house. Hey, let's go to the beach. And then we end up doing things together, which is really fun outside the work environment. Exactly. And we have fun together. So that's what we have been doing.
Javi, go ahead.
I also do smaller meetings too. Like I'll do one-on-ones.
Yeah.
Like periodically when I can get, one of the guys, and I'll tell them, hey, you want to go have lunch or something, and meet with them individually. Obviously, the team is the team, but sometimes I like to pick,
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So
sometimes you need to talk something specific with that person. Correct. That you don't need to bring to the whole team.
Correct, yes.
And then you just have a meeting individual.
Right. Or I need feedback for me. I mean, I'm big on
feedback.
Hey, I need...
Me too.
Tell me, like, what do you think about this on, this that I'm planning or that, so I can see where they're at. It's not only like, hey, you're not doing this.
And they might end up bringing a great idea,
correct,
great solution for solving a problem.
Right. I even propose the problems that I'm facing with them sometimes like that. Yes. Hey, what do you think about this, problem? What would you do about this? And it's a specific problem that I'm dealing with some of the barbers.
I have a question on top of that one. Thank you for bringing that subject. What are the obstacles you are facing right now, and what you are doing and what you have done to fix it? By sharing, you're going to help a lot of people that are listening.
Yeah. I mean...
as a barbershop owner,
of course. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's a good question. I mean, right now, I can't really pinpoint nothing that I'm really facing with that. I mean, I think it's keeping everybody motivated on, the posting and the, keep their side of that, keep them encouraging and always moving forward on promoting themselves, and always reminding them that they are, just as big as a part of in your case, Invictus Barbershop and mine, Grumen Barbershop, like just as big as a part of that brand, the individual is just as big a part of that brand as the brand is to them, and always encouraging them to, promote themselves and not to wait for Grumen Barbershop necessarily to promote them. It's like take the initiative. So how I'm fixing it is that's a day-to-day grind. Is continuously trying to encourage them and continuously trying to get them content for them to be able to kind of help them meet them halfway. Have content ready for them and help them again, like I said, do photo shoots. Amazing. And do fun, friendly stuff like that, so that we help each other out. So that's I think when the whole team is pushing forward and promoting themselves, then I'm doing my part to promote the whole team. It's a lot easier to move forward than if it's just me trying to push or pull or whatever you want to call it. If we're all moving together, it's always a lot easier to grow. Than
Remember the plan? Did you watch the Planet of the Apes, the movie?
Yes. Yeah.
Remember the first movie when Caesar grabbed a little stick, one stick, and he said, "Apes alone," and one stick. Yeah. He broke it.
Yeah.
And then he brought like 4 or 5 sticks. Yeah. Apes together, strong. Yeah. That's exactly what you're just saying. Exactly. I'm picturing here what you're saying. So Javi, I think motivation is come from within.
Yeah.
And what motivates me wake up every day is because I know how many people I can impact with my experience or the knowledge that I gather, and that's what makes me motivate the most. Yeah. And how can I share that? That's what motivates me. What motivates you to wake up every day and go to the shop, motivate those people? You have all these overhead costs, you have all these problems behind it because the barbers might not see, and then your family, and then all these things together. What motivates you?
I mean, I've been saying it throughout the whole time. I mean, definitely God, motivates me today. I go to sleep and wake up every day with a prayer, so that's a big motivation. My family, my friends, and I mean, seeing guys like you, like definitely, like you're a big part of, my motivation.
Thank you, sir.
When I see you guys doing what you guys are doing and pushing forward, and, grinding and trudging. I want to use the word trudging because it's not an easy thing to move forward and move a business forward. It takes grit, and, seeing guys like you do it, from a distance, it's part of the motivation. I'm very limited on the people that I follow, that I allow to get motivated by. One of them being the spiritual one, which is guys that are doing God stuff, and guys like you that are I'm sure spiritual and hard workers and dignity and honor. So those are some of the things that inspire me every day, when I wake up. And like you've noticed on my Instagram, I like the boxing and fighting and staying healthy and working out, and that's also a big inspiration for me, is waking up and going out and going for runs and working out and stuff like that. So
can you share how it was sparring with Segano Junior?
I mean, it was honestly, it was a play fight. That guy is very, very, very good person.
He's tall, right?
Yeah, he's a big guy. I mean, he's tall, he's big, he's everything he looks like, and scarier. But that guy loves what he does. I can tell in the gym, like, he goes and he has fun and he talks to everybody, and he's a great guy. But he's always messing around with the other fighters. So he just started messing around with me, and I asked him, "Hey, like, I gotta get this on video, If I'm gonna step in the ring with you, you're a legend, And he's like, "Of course." We propped up the phone and we went out like a little play fight, This is not sparring, because if he spars with me, he would annihilate me. Wow.
I saw you guys like close, and you were here, and he was
here. Yeah. He's a big guy, and besides that he's a big guy, he's a very skilled fighter. I mean, if you follow MMA, you've seen that guy is a legend in the fighting world.
Wow, I follow him too. How you allocate time? I mean, how you organize your time between personal life and business? Like, how you allocate? This time will be for this time will be for how?
Right now, honestly, I'm gonna say that I'm not extremely good. I'm winging it right now. I'm not extremely good at putting it on the calendar and stuff like that. But at this kind of point in my career, I'm, things are kind of like set already. I have, how can I put it, like, my little schedule already that I follow, so I try to put my family and my spiritual life first. Obviously, like I said, God first, my family right after, and then work. And then, like I said, I like working out and stuff. So if I have to wake up at 5 in the morning to go work out because that's out of the way of my family, whatever we're doing on Sunday, I wake up at 5 in the morning and go. I like working out, but my family doesn't want me to go for a run at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday and ruin their day. So I make sure to be up at all costs at 5 in the morning on Sunday, go for my run and be back so we can have breakfast and get ready for the day, go to church, whatnot, and so, yeah, I mean, it's not the best answer, but I kind of wing it, but I just have my priorities and what I put first, and and then in that order I put God, my family, and then anything that has to do with work.
I'm the same line of thinking. Javi, thank you very much for coming, brother. Your story is just amazing.
Thank you.
I always say that I'm sitting here, I'm learning with each guest.
Yes.
I'm always learning. Your story will impact a lot of people that are watching. Thank you for coming to the Black Belt Barber podcast, the first and only podcast about entrepreneurship for barbers, professional beauty professionals. So thank you again for coming out, guys.
Do you want to share your Instagram where people can find you?
Definitely, yeah. My Instagram is Javcuts, JAVCUTSYOU, and the Grumen Barbershop and Spa. That's the barbershop one, and you can follow me there. That'd be great. Thank you.
Guys, follow Javi. Also follow me to Invictus, and thank you all for watching. Go ahead and click on the like, share, and comment. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Javi, once again, thank you very much, sir. This podcast is sponsored by Invictus Podcast Studios.